My name is Stephen, and for the last 20 years, I believed I knew everything about my wife, Juliet. I believed I had seen every smile, felt every fear, shared every sorrow, and celebrated every joy she ever carried in her heart. But I was wrong. I found her biggest secret long after the light had left her eyes. And now, each breath I take feels heavier than the last. Juliet and I had what people called a quiet love. It wasn't loud, flashy, or dramatic. It was morning coffees and evening walks. It was holding hands without needing to speak. It was kisses on the forehead, shared glances from across the room, and soft laughter in the middle of the night. We met in college. She was always the girl with eyes full of storms and words that felt like poetry. I was just a man who didn't know how to make big speeches but knew how to listen. And maybe that's why she loved me. I listened, or at least, I thought I did. We got married after graduation, built a small house in the country, lived a life that many would call simple, but to me, it was a masterpiece painted with ordinary moments. A year before she passed, Juliet started to change. She grew quiet, not the peaceful quiet I had known, but a silence that held shadows. Her eyes, once so bright, began to carry sorrow. At first, I thought it was just the stress of aging or loneliness. Maybe she missed her parents. Maybe it was the empty nest since we had no children. But when I asked her, she would smile and say, "I'm fine, love. Just tired." She said it so often, I started to believe it. But the tiredness grew. Her body began to lose weight. Her hair fell out in soft clumps, though she always brushed it before I could see. The sparkle in her laugh faded. Still, she kept smiling. Still, I didn't ask harder. Maybe I didn't want to know the truth. Juliet passed away on a rainy Thursday morning. The rain sounded like weeping on the window. I remember the smell of rain and lavender. She always wore lavender. She was lying in bed, her fingers cold but still curved like they were waiting for mine. I had gone to get her tea. When I came back, she was gone. No scream, no warning, no last words, only silence, heavy, final, and the scent of lavender on her pillow. It was 2 weeks after the funeral when I found the box. I had gone into her study, the one room in the house she kept locked. I never asked why. I always thought a person had the right to a private space. That was my first mistake. The key was hidden behind her favorite picture frame, the photo of us in Venice. I almost didn't want to turn the lock. It felt like breaking something sacred. Inside the study, it smelled like old paper and dried flowers. On the desk sat a wooden box with the word, "If found, read with love," carved on top. I opened it, and my world crumbled. Inside were 37 letters, all written in Juliet's delicate handwriting. Each one addressed to me. The first letter began simply, "Greater than my dearest Stephen, if you are reading this, then I have left this world before I could tell you what I never had the courage to say. Greater than forgive me, I wanted to protect you. I thought love meant hiding pain. I was wrong." She told me she had been sick for 5 years. Cancer, the quiet kind that creeps in slowly and steals pieces of you while you sleep. She had known for a long time, but she had chosen not to tell me. "I didn't want to see the worry in your eyes," she wrote. "I wanted our last years together to be about love, not hospitals and goodbyes." I cried that night, like a man who had just learned his heart had been bleeding for years and he never noticed. I held those letters like they were her hands. Each letter peeled back the layers of her secret. She described the pain, how her body had become her enemy, how every step became harder, how she hid the medications inside vitamin bottles, how she smiled through nausea, laughed through agony. But it was the third letter that shattered me. "Greater than Stephen, do you remember that day by the river, when you said you wished we had children? You didn't see me cry that night. I wanted children too. I wanted to give you everything. But my body couldn't carry life. The doctors told me it would kill me. That's when I found out about the cancer. I made a choice. Our time together, even if short, was better than any future without you." She chose me, over hope, over life, over everything. Tucked inside the last letter was a photograph. It was Juliet, sitting on a hospital bed, holding a baby girl wrapped in pink. I stared at the picture for what felt like hours. Then I turned the photo over. It read, "Anna, 2007. My sister's baby." For one day, she let me be her mother. I didn't know Juliet had a sister. She never spoke of family. And now I understood why. Juliet had buried every part of her past that could cause pain. Also she could give me peace. But now that peace burned like fire. A month after reading the last letter, I traveled to the sea. Juliet loved the sea. She said it made her feel infinite. I took her ashes there, as she asked in her final letter. "Greater than scatter me where the waves kiss the shore." where the sky feels wide and forgiving. And if you ever miss me, sit by the water and close your eyes. I'll be there in the wind. I stood there, waves pulling at my feet, and I let her go. The wind wrapped around me like arms, like an embrace, the last one she could give. The house is still full of her, her books, her scarves, her teacups with faded roses. Some mornings, I still make 2 cups of tea. Then I sit by the window and wait for her to walk in. Of course, she doesn't. But sometimes, when the sun hits the window just right, I swear I see her shadow sitting next to me. I talk to her sometimes, not because I've gone mad, but because love doesn't end when the body does. I used to think love was about knowing everything, about sharing every secret, every detail. But Juliet taught me something deeper. Love is also about sacrifice. It's about choosing someone else's joy over your own. It's about protecting even when it hurts. She carried her pain so I wouldn't have to. She gave me laughter while she swallowed tears. And in the end, she gave me one final gift, the truth. Her biggest secret was not the illness. It was her love, a love that didn't ask to be praised, a love that gave without expecting. Today, I wrote my first letter back to her. Greater than Juliet, I found your secret, and I understand now. You didn't hide it because you were afraid. You hid it because you loved too deeply. Thank you for every moment, every embrace, every lie told in love. I would choose you again. In this life, in the next, always. Greater than love, Stephen. I placed it in the wooden box. The box that once held her truth, now holds mine. And maybe one day, when the wind carries me to her, we'll sit by the sea again. And I'll hold her like I did when the world still had color. Until then, I'll wait. Because true love doesn't end. It just changes form, like water, like wind, like memory.